Hey everybody, it's Columbus Wired's Andy Evans coming at you here with the Ohio State Penn State pregame preview. And even though it doesn't need to be stated, I'm going to say it anyways. This game is huge. Second-ranked, undefeated Nittany Lions invading the horseshoe to take on the 6-1, sixth-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. Both teams undefeated right now in Big Ten play at 4-0. And of course, this game not only having Big Ten championship game implications, it also has that college football playoff Final Four implications as well. The winner of this, more than likely setting the stage to move on into the rest of the season to possibly not only play and represent the East Division in the Big Ten Championship, but also possibly get a spot in the Final Four. So this game is big. Now, of course, the whole week, everybody's been talking about a lot of the stats. We all know the stats, right? Ohio State's the number 1 total offense. Penn State's the number 2 total offense. You've got Ohio State as the number 1 scoring offense, not only in the Big Ten, but tied for first as the most potent scoring offense in the entire country. Of course, on the flip side, everybody knows Penn State, they have the most potent and lethal scoring defense, only allowing 9 points a game, which is tops in the country. Right now are the Nittany Lions, not allowing a lot of people to score any points against them. So, and once again, we all know the stats, right? Saquon Barkley, he's good. He's a Heisman candidate. So is J.T. Barrett. So is even Trace McSorley. I mean, Trace McSorley and J.T. Barrett right now kind of fighting each other out for being the top offensive player in the Big Ten. And, of course, they both have had great seasons. They both can boast those stats. But here's my breakdown of the game, okay? And, a lot of people, once again, they want to talk about, well, is it going to be Ohio State's passing offense? Is it going to come down to JT? Is it going to come down to Saquon Barkley? You got to stop him. Well, no, duh. He's awesome, right? Leading the country with 211 yards per game. Of course you got to stop Saquon Barkley. But here's the thing. You're not going to stop him. The only thing you can hope to do is contain him because the dude's probably going to get at least 100. I'm going to gamble to say he's good for about 150 in this game and 2 scores, okay? But the key is putting pressure on Trace McSorley and just hoping to contain Saquon Barkley enough and force Penn State to try and throw the football. I really think that is the key to winning this game on the defensive side of the ball for the Buckeyes. On the offensive side of the ball, there's J.T. Barrett, right? Of course, he's a Heisman Trophy contending candidate. And since the Oklahoma game, he's gone nuts. Last 5 games, he's averaging 316 total yards of offense, has not turned the ball over. All right, he is playing out of his mind right now. But the question is, what JT are we going to get? Are we going to get the JT that we've seen the last 5 weeks against, let's face it, not very good defenses? Or are we going to see the JT that we saw against Oklahoma, who averaged about 200 yards that game, no touchdowns, threw an interception? Not his greatest performance. But as we've seen out of JT in years past, and especially this Ohio State team after a loss, Urban Meyer always has these guys flying at a high level. And as you all, I'm sure, have heard by now, Urban Meyer all-time in his coaching career is 21-1 after a bye week, has only lost 1 game, and that was back, I believe, his first year at Bowling Green when he had to take on a Miami team that had some kid named Ben Roethlisberger playing for him or something like that. Not suffice it to say, needless to say, Urban Meyer is pretty damn good after a bye week, and especially after a loss. And people are talking about shades of 2014 right now. But let's slow down. Let's get past Penn State. But what is it going to take for the Buckeyes to get past Penn State? Here's what I think Ohio State needs to do. And here is my Ohio State-Penn State pregame preview. I think that the Buckeyes need to run the ball. Ohio State needs to run the ball. Because as good as J.T. Barrett has been throwing here lately, I don't think that Ohio State needs to rely on J.T. Barrett to throw the ball to win the game. Let's give it to a guy who is second behind that Barkley kid in rushing right now. That's right, the true freshman out of Texas, number 2, J.K. Dobbins. Give him the football and let him pound it down Penn State's throat. Penn State right now phenomenal passing defense, and that is one reason why I don't think you can expect J.T. Barrett to throw the football and be successful, at least successful enough to win the game for Ohio State. Run the ball, establish the run, come out, give it to your guy, number 2, and just let him work it down the field. That is the one thing right now that Penn State has been a little bit susceptible on, is allowing people to run the football against them. Check out these stats, all right? Pitt, who I think is, 3-4 right now? They ran for 155 yards and a score. Georgia State from the Sun Belt Conference, the mighty Panthers out of the raging Sun Belt Conference, 150 yards on the ground against this Penn State awesome vaunted rush defense. Indiana throws the ball all the time. All they did was run for a season high against the Nittany Lions, 177 yards. And last weekend, Michigan able to go for a $103, and the only team to score 2 touchdowns on the ground. Now, why in the world can Ohio State not do that? I think they can. Give it to Dobbins. You're going to see J.T. Barrett run the ball a little bit more than we have the last several games. In fact, against Nebraska, he ran it 10 times, which was the most he had run since after the Oklahoma game. So I expect J.T. Barrett to probably tote the ball about around maybe 13, 14 times. Is he going to be able to get 100 yards, though? He hasn't run for 100 yards yet, and I don't want him to. I don't want to rely on J.T. Barrett running the football in this game to win the game for Ohio State. Give it to Dobbins, and gee whiz, there's that other kid in the backfield, number 25, that redshirt sophomore who ran for 1,000 yards last year, only the 3rd freshman ever in Ohio State history to do so, Mike Weber Jr. If you look at the stats, they've been raising him up a little bit. He's been getting more carries and more carries and more carries each game, topped off 2 weekends ago against Nebraska, 18 carries, 82 yards. Aside from scoring 3 touchdowns against Rutgers, that Nebraska game his best yet to date. So you can tell they're slowly but surely bringing Weber back after that injury. So Ohio State running the football, I think, is the key, honestly, to them winning this football game, especially if the weather is as bad as it's going to be. They were calling for rain in the 40s tomorrow. Now, I hear that they have backed off of that rain, although it is supposed to rain here a little bit later tonight in central Ohio. It's still going to be pretty cold, maybe a little bit windy tomorrow, but supposedly the clouds are going to part late morning. It might even be partly sunny by the time kickoff comes at 3:30, and let's hope that's the case. But even still, don't let J.T. Barrett sit in the pocket and throw the ball and win the game. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that he shouldn't throw the ball at all. Of course, he's got to throw the ball. You can't sit there and run all game long against a Penn State defense that's been allowing 115 yards a game. But if you expect JT to sit back in the pocket and win you the game by throwing the ball like they did against Oklahoma, then folks, expect Ohio State to lose tomorrow. They have got to run the football. They've got to establish the run. They've got to eat up some clock too. You've got to keep the ball out of Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley's hands. Even if you are able to contain Saquon Barkley, you've still got Trace McSorley back there, a guy who a lot of people say is Baker Mayfield-esque, that can create some plays with his feet. And as we saw in that Michigan game last weekend, he can launch it down the field to Deshaun Hamilton. Deshaun Hamilton is a heck of a receiver. So right now, I think that's your key to the game. Ohio State, you play ball control, you run it, you establish control of the game by running the football. And if they can do that, folks, I think they've got a win on their hands. Now, here's a couple of fun facts for you, too. Ohio State, right now, in the country, as far as penalties go, they are averaging over 7 penalties a game for 74 yards a game. That is not only dead last in the Big Ten, that is 106th in the country as far as average number of penalties a game, and they're 121st out of 129 NCAA FBS teams in penalty yards a game. Penn State, they're averaging about 3.5 penalties a game for about 34.5 yards a game, which is good for 3rd in the country as far as the number of penalties per game goes, and 6th in the country as far as average penalty yards go. So Ohio State has to remain disciplined in this game. Don't give up big plays by getting penalized, okay? Because if you do that, so far, it's not come back to haunt them except for the Oklahoma game. Otherwise, they've gotten pretty lucky. But if you allow yourself to be penalized and be undisciplined, that could come back to hurt you. Number 2 fun fact. JT Barrett right now averaging 313 yards per game. Now, if my math is correct, he needs to average 330 yards per game for the next 5 games. And if he can average 330 yards per game, he is going to become the Big Ten's all-time leader in total offense. He's going to pass Drew Brees after the Michigan game if he can average 330 yards a game. So my question to you is, does he have 330 yards worth of offense in him this weekend? And I'm going to say no. I don't think he's got 330 yards of total offense in him this weekend. I'm sorry. I think Penn State's defense is that good. I know some people out there say, well, they haven't played anybody. Michigan's offense stinks. They're terrible. Georgia State, Well, I just read off some of the stats to you as far as them running the football against Penn State, which is true, but their passing defense is insane. The top-ranked pass efficiency defense in the country. Once again, the top-scoring defense in the country. This is one of the best defenses in the country, folks, when it comes to people trying to throw the football against them, and that's why I say don't let JT sit in the pocket and try to throw to win the game. Run the ball, establish some ball control, eat up some clock, keep the ball out of Saquon Barkley's hands. And if the Ohio State Buckeyes can do that, then, folks, I think they walk away with a win tomorrow, which I think is going to happen. 27-24, final score, Buckeyes over Nittany Lions, handing them their first loss of the season, and Ohio State will now set the table for themselves the next few weeks to get to the Big Ten championship game, and let's hope a spot in the college football playoff. For Columbus Wired, I'm Andy Evans. Thanks for watching.